those who travel to you, give you travel mercies for a reason. And may at this time that reason still be manifested in all the words that we engage in, all our activities, and all the thoughts that we have. That the church of the folks say, amen, ashe, and so it is. So the BioPsychoSpiritual, I'm looking at the timekeeper, I'm just telling you right now. Because y'all started something when I came here. I wasn't following anybody. I just came rolled up in here. I rolled up in here because Pastoral says, come check out something. But y'all started something. And where I'm from, if you don't start nothing, won't be nothing. But since it's on, it's on. And so we have to then deal with what's happening. So when we talk about the biopsychosocial phenomenon, we often miss things in church because we're focused on one aspect of being, but we miss the totality of what it means to be human. When we talk about the issue of biopsychosocial, we recognize that the mind, spirit, and body are connected. We heard today about that we are glorified dirt. If then we are glorified dirt, what distinguishes this particular body from dust and dirt in the ground? There is something inside of the body that imbues every molecule of our being that animates the dirt and gives it some essence. So when we talk then about the breathing of life into a being, that spiritual element gives life, so the thing that looks like dirt later ain't dirt right now. Is that making sense? Yeah. And I do have a PhD, and I did say ain't. So it is understanding the connection between the mind, the body, and the particular essence called spirit that makes things happen. That I can tell you right now, I can say, close your eyes and imagine that you're on the edge of a cliff, and what your body will begin to do is to respond to it as if you were actually on the edge of a cliff. Your blood pressure will begin to increase, Dr. Ross. Your adrenaline will begin to flow. Your cortisol level will go up. And yet you are not on a cliff at all. It was in your mind that you created that entire reality that changed your physiology. Is that making sense? Yeah. And how your physiology then responds, it influences how your spirit manipulates and moves in the environment. So when we understand that there are certain things that are in operation that are trying to keep us at a level of this. Here it is. Here's coming. I'm not going to make the words, Archbishop. I promise I won't do it. You do it. I'm like, no. All right, so it keeps us discombobulated. It keeps us disconnected. It keeps us confused and distracted from understanding that we are divine. But let's look at this particular this passage. We've heard this before about not being conformed conformed to the world, right? But being transformed by the what? Now somehow we miss this in church. We begin to assume, I can't stand up in a church that says that you don't need a psychologist. You don't need a psychiatrist. You don't need a medical doctor. All you need is Jesus. Yes, I understand what you're saying. But God imbued every last one of us with a talent. And there are some things as a minister, it just can't get done. There's some things as a psychologist, it just can't get done. There's some things as a medical doctor, it takes the whole family to work together to create wholeness. But some people begin to say, you don't need, and that's when you know somebody, you already know. When somebody says that they don't need something, the psychologist, we already know where you're coming from. All right, y'all catch that one later too. But it says, and be not conformed to the world, right? But be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, right? That ye may prove what is good. Form. Let's deal with this issue of form. Form appears twice there. There is conformed and there is what? Transformed. Form is shape. And then what we heard also, y'all started this, you said that you cannot be what? Defiled by, what did you say? The Spirit said again? Spirit, what you consume. But you can be deformed what you put into your body. How y'all ain't catching that one? Yeah. I can give you something inside of your glass right now that will deform your entire reality. Is that making sense? Yes, you can be deformed, but All right, we get, all right, it's a bigger piece I want to present to you. So the idea of being conformed, shaped, transformed, moved from one level to another by the renewing of your mind. Where is the mind is a fundamental question. Well, some suggest it was in the heart, some say it was in the brain. But what we do know is that mind is that thing that causes anything to come into existence. Everything in this room was in the mind, was a thought first. How about that? Even you were a thought. Right. Yeah. My father saw my mother and said, That was a thought. NIP. Is that making sense? Yes. But we have an industry that is designed to sell us some stuff, and so we are influenced by the particular lifestyle. We conform, an idea of obesity takes over. We understand that obesity takes over in our communities, and so then we are abundant, and we assume that somehow the healthy baby is a fat baby. In reality, a fat baby is not a healthy baby. Y'all ain't catching that one. See, because we do see, y'all ain't catching, you gotta catch this. Because if we believe then that the body is a temple that houses the Spirit of God, then how are we treating the temple becomes a fundamental question. We saw an image a little while ago, we saw an image of a temple, and we were looking, ooh, the big rooms, the wonderful rooms, it's majestic. Right? It was on video, am I lying? Am I right? Yeah. Okay. Some people say that I talk too fast. I would suggest that some people just listen too slowly. Because if it come out of our mouth, your ears can catch this. If I don't talk fast enough, y'all think about too much stuff. But the images of the building, the temple, it would be a sad state of affairs to go into that beautiful, pristine place and see it in total disarray. It looks good on the outside, but on the inside it's disrupted. That if you want to see a house go down, have a family to move out of it. And the roof will begin to fall in. That something happens that what animates that house transforms every aspect of being. The same thing with your temple. Your temple is modified by what the Spirit is doing, but the Spirit animates the body, and so you have to take care of both the body and the Spirit to have everything work, but your mind is the thing that controls it all. Wherever you find you're behind, your mind led you there. Parliament says that free your mind and your behind will follow. So wherever you find yourself, you thought yourself into that situation. And so we don't recognize the power of the mind, and people can control mind and thought, and therefore we get tied up into some confusion. Don't know how we got there. As we heard earlier, means go back and find. Literally is the legion. You can be a religious person and don't have any bit of spirituality within you. Right. I want to be clear. Because you profess religion doesn't make you spiritual. And because you're walking around spiritual doesn't make you religious. Because religion is the vehicle through which we get to a place called spirituality. And when individuals begin to respect and respond to the practice that is in religion and the spirit essence of God within us, it begins to create a whole new reality. The spirit is the life force, the life energy, the essence that came from God, as we heard earlier, that spoke into the ovum. The question always begs to be answered. We can talk about the sperm and egg connecting. My question is, how did the sperm know how to find the egg? How did the egg know how to unite with the sperm cells? How did it know how to travel and mount in the uterus? How did it know how to do all of that? How can it figure out how to develop? And how did the body know how to do what it did and supply what it supplied it? How did it know is the question. And the answer to the question is that divine intelligence has always been there. So whatever it is that was in the ovum is also in the room right now. God is that particular essence. Is that making sense? Yeah. We talked about, y'all got this part started. I wasn't even talk about this one, Bishop, but here it is. We talked about this, the issue of the snake. We talked the snake and the serpent and go on and on. And studies show ourselves approved. Let's try that one, right? So we know that this particular image here is a symbol that's utilized to the star of life. But it comes from what's called the rod of Asclepius. Asclepius was actually Imhotep in ancient Kemet. The idea of the serpent, brothers and sisters, was utilized not as a particular entity that causes death, But healers used it because there was something deemed to be sacred in the venom of a snake. And that if one is imbued with it, they can be transformed. But too much of it, they can die. So there was a dual process in the snake. Also, the snake was that once you were sick, you were limp and lifeless. But as the snake sheds its skin, it comes anew. It says that once you were healed, you become renewed. Do you hear coming? Y'all didn't get up. And back up again so you catch this. Watch this. It says, be transformed by the what? It said that once you begin to lose the old skin, have you heard that before? That the new skin takes over and there's a new reality. So this idea of renewal has to be recognized. Now, here is a symbol that we normally see as the particular symbol of healing. It comes from the wand of Tahuti, or wand of staff of Hermes, or Mercury. It is a take on this idea that there's both life and death. Have you heard life and death found both in the what? In the tongue? Same thing. That there is a life and death process, and that they intertwine, that they create this thing, and that as you elevate in consciousness, that is both male and female, and that as you elevate in consciousness, you begin to transcend your situation and you become a Christ. The original symbol was like this. It was Tahuti. Tahuti, as you look at the particular Tahuti, go to the feathers. The feather of Ma'at is where it ends, and Ma'at symbolizes truth, justice, harmony, reciprocity, pride, balance, and order. And that as you become elevated from a dead level and ascend to a higher level, you then have consciousness or Christ, and then that makes you a Christ on earth. So the story that we're reading about at one point in the Bible with Moses and the staff tells us that clearly where he studied and understood how to be human came out of ancient Kemet. Y'all, you see, I'm just saying. So we spew out the words but don't understand the foundational studies. There's a reason Jesus disappears. There's a reason that Moses comes away when he comes out. Because when you study traditions in ancient Kemet or Egypt, you realize that you could not even come out to be a higher priest until you were 42 years old. As a matter of fact, when you went in to go to school, you couldn't talk for an entire year. You couldn't ask a question because you didn't know enough to ask a good question. Deep stuff. So the stories that we're reading about, and we get this other story too, right? We hear a story about Moses and the Egyptians and the idea of captivity, but we never study the idea of traditional societies and who was in control of Egypt at that particular time. Deep conversation. You deal with the various dynasties. The Hyksos probably were in control of what happened, that the Hyksos were actually invaders who actually enslaved the folks that were there. Kind of like this. Kind of like Native Americans were here first, but we don't see many of them around. How about that? Does that make sense? Right? Are you following that? So the people that in this land right now are really not the original inhabitants in this room. Most of us are not the inhabitants. How about that? And y'all will catch that one later too. Let me get to you. So what happens here is that Tahuti is symbolized, watch this, my brothers and sisters, is symbolized with the bird, the ibis bird. The ibis bird can wade through the murky waters and pick out what is edible to be consumed. That it had divine insight and was able to deal with the issue of illumination. That to me sounds like a preacher. That you have to begin to look at certain situations, hear certain things, and begin to wade through the murkiness of the situation and begin to derive at what? Truth. Find something that can be consumed. And that as you do that, as you elevate in consciousness, you become one with God. That is a Christ moment. See, the idea of wrestling, we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rules, right? The idea of wrestling, it is not the issue of a person, but the issue of thought, of processes. Thought again, what the parable of the sword. And what do the various grounds symbolize? It symbolize what? Mind. Some people have a bad mind. Can't tell them anything. No matter how, some people get it for a moment, and they just forget it. Right? I had it in a moment, but I forgot it. Right? I cannot remember it. As we heard earlier about read. You cannot remember anything that you have not remembered. Right? Does that make sense? You got to figure out how to remember something. And so this parable tells us clearly about the mind. And sometimes in church, we miss this because we don't understand that the discussion about the mind and the body are very essential to human understanding. We hear about the idea of the particular boy and legions. And so we have, again, counseling to get out the particular lesions in the body. But we heard, I always call you Bishop, Reverend Donaldson. Coach, we heard her say yesterday about a fearfully and wonderfully made. If that is so, then what is the it that we're talking about? The it of I am fearfully and wonderfully made, marvelous of my work, other works, and that my soul knows right and well. If your soul knows right, then why don't you do right? My grandmother says that if you know better, then what? You do better. But maybe the minds haven't been transformed. That all things were lawful. I'm going to go to that part right there. But I want to show you this part about the body temple. And if we believe that the body is a temple, and we understand that things challenge us through isms and so forth and so on, and stress and so forth, then what is it that we are supposed to do as a people? What are people coming to us in our churches dealing with? How about that one? Yes, we can give a particular theology. We talk about Jesus. Yes, we can talk about nothing but the blood. Yes, we can talk about all those things. And at the end of the day, how does it transform someone's life to live a little bit better? Right. What happens when somebody presents to you that, yes, I'm here, but I have an issue with substance abuse? Right. All right. All right. Yes, I'm here, but I've been sexually violated. Yes, I hear what you said about Jesus, but this issue of my spouse leaving me causing me concern. Yes, you tell me that I ought to honor marriage, but do you understand the hell that I'm living with? Do you understand the confusion that's going on in my space? We have to recognize that it goes beyond simply the pulpit to say yes and rely on Jesus, and it goes beyond it to say that let's break down the essential elements of what you're dealing with. Let's talk about your abuse. Let's talk about the violence. Let's talk about all those things so we can unpackage it. Yeah. Because if it's unpackaged, it is simply there, it is festering, it is growing, it is becoming large, and some things that we dealt with, we have not dealt with them at all. They're still there. It's still there. The memory, Dr. Ross, memory is there to help us live life better. It can work for us or against us. Right? I mentioned earlier about this idea of the dog, and you kick a dog long enough, the dog will begin to not come from under the house. It remembers what your presence means to it. We do the same thing to one another. We remember how we were mistreated by someone else. So I see you remind me of someone else. I treat you like you're someone else. We have to recognize that everybody in this room has some shiggity they dealing with. Is that making sense? Not the issue of y'all have sinned. The issue is what? We all have sinned. Everybody in this room has a narrative. Am I right or wrong? That's something that you don't want anybody in this room to know about. Right? You would be embarrassed that someone knew. And as a matter of fact, I'm talking about it, it's come back to your memory, and you think, like, how does he know? You want to know how I know? Because I, too, have some what? Shiggity that I don't want you to know about. Is that making sense? Y'all get that one later. Some stuff. And it is a mental process. It stays there. Emotions of fear, of sadness, despair, guilt, destructive emotions are there, and they disallow us from growing. And the thing that we forget to recognize is that we must be transformed by the renewal, and sometimes that renewal comes in the pulpit and then it goes beyond the pulpit. What do we do? Yes. We understand also that the body works. You'll get understand around the Valentine's Day. What do we buy for folks for Valentine's Day? And what chocolate? Well, you know, I'm just saying. All right, so pause for a moment. This one just came in. December 25th was acknowledged as a particular elevation of spiritual illumination, not because of Jesus being born, but because at the time people recognized that as you look at the agrarian societies, that the sun would begin to come closer to the earth and begin to cause life to grow towards it. And as things begin to go towards the sun, at December 21st, as a matter of fact, in the Northern Hemisphere, December 20th is called the winter solstice. It's the shortest day of the entire year. As the days begin to get longer around 25th, you're going to notice as the days get longer, that life is beginning to come back on earth. And so the sun, the S-U-N of God, is coming to bring forth life and life more abundantly. And therefore, they pair the particular tradition of recognizing the solstice coming and Jesus at the same time. Y'all pause, catch this. It's a sad state of affairs that when a plant, an organism, does not grow towards illumination of light. Y'all, you got to get that again. It's a sad situation when a plant refuses to grow towards the sun. It is sad when a human being refuses to grow towards enlightenment. Yes. The idea, y'all got to catch that. As a matter of fact, we're walking around with this book called the Holy Bible. And do we recognize that the word holy comes from the word holios, and holios means sun, and biblios means book. Therefore, it is about the book of the what? Sun. Hello? Yes. Which means then that the tradition of celebrating the coming of the S-U-N of God is really one that is age-old. That's why it's called Sunday. Y'all, come on, y'all. This is about illumination. So let's drop this right here. So let's do this. If you are glorified dirt, and that means then that substance from you is of the earth, then why do we not consume more earth? That's why we celebrated this in the first place. To restore the body so that the mind can function. If the mind is out of order, the body can't function, and the body can't function. Everything is out of order. So you have to have your health, your wealth, and your prosperity for it to work. Yes. If a person who fortifies what God has given them with substance from the earth to sustain it is a health nut, what do you call someone who doesn't care about what they put in their body? Is that making sense? Oh yeah, we can consume death all day long. Yeah. How can we preach a living particular sermon when we don't consume life to be able to be a life-giving source to anybody else? Y'all ain't catching that. Yes, because the issue of ill health is an issue in the church. When you want to deal with obesity, go to a black church. If you want to deal with hypertension, go to a black church. If you want to deal with diabetes, I'm just saying. And we're not dealing with essential issues because we are preaching that dead theology. Let me say that take care of your mind, your body, and your soul. Is that making sense? Yeah. We want to talk about one thing. We're talking about the issue of nutrition, of exercise. We saw it a few minutes ago, exercise and jumping and hopping. People understand this, but some people miss it because they think all you got to do is hoop and holler and spit and give it, and ooh, we felt good today. And sickness is just sick. Right. I am trying my best. But yet we say, I love the Lord. How can you love that which you can not see, and you can't love that which you see every day? You look in the mirror every day and see your body, you can't love it. Enough to say, I want to treat this body today, this temple of God, with everything that I know is good so that the temple can be okay. My father loved automobiles, and he loved to talk about automobiles, and he showed me, he says, he'll beat a raggedy car. He says, son, this is the car that you want to get. That car is beaten up. He says, yeah, but the engine in it is good. So Dad, I worked on it right there. He says, yeah, the body is good, but the engine ain't worth it. It's a sad state of affairs. A lot of times we're dressed up and we're dressed up, but the engine just ain't running right. Right. Yeah, the engine is not running right. That's a ministry of why. I'm going to show you why it's important, right? The body draws on energy from substance that it consumes to be able to do what it does. The calorie means a unit of energy to be burned to take care of something. If you're not doing anything, then stop eating. Y'all ain't catch that. If you're not doing anything, then stop eating, because it is about a unit of energy to be burned while you're doing something. Sitting around, yeah, okay. But if it draws from it, and food then is an energy source. Remember, we said the sun, giving it, imbuing it with energy, and vegetables and fruits and so forth, so on, gives the body what it needs. And I won't go through that long conversation. That the idea of exercise rejuvenates and moves things and helps things to happen. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. Brother Clay was up the other day, yesterday, early in the morning, and they're just grunting and pushing weight. Made me mad. He was pushing weight around. And I got there later than he got there. I got there earlier today. I want to beat him there today. Why? Because I understand that keeping the body together makes the mind stay clear. You can't get a good thought going. Your mind is clogged up with some stuff. Right? The ministers in the church then must have activities that begin to facilitate movement of our people. Why is that important? We'll deal with that. Zumba, Latin cardio. I would love to go to Brother Clay's church. But this big guns. Y'all don't know that brother has some guns underneath that suit right there. But the issue is that it is about holistic health. Not simply one aspect. I'm going to tell you right now. You talk about tithes and offering, if the congregation is his dad, you ain't getting nothing. How about that? Now, I'm just saying that we know that jogging can facilitate the idea of memory and can generate the idea of cognitive functioning. How deep is it to have a congregation of people who are thinking about things? We know that burning calories, that the idea of people who exercise 3 or more times, I didn't make this stuff, I'm just saying, exercise 3 or more times a week can earn nearly 10% more than those who do not. Can we pause for a moment for those who are concerned about tithes and offering? Can you see a connection right here? Tithes, I don't want to start this. If you think about tithes, I'm just saying, it's not you all, Brother Clay, I'm just saying it's those who are. If your folks are exercising, then they earn more, which means that what can happen? Your ministries can grow. Thank you very much. Your ministries can grow. Does that make y'all ain't catching that? I ain't doing nothing. I ain't what? Oh, yeah. I'm taking the stairs, and yeah, some good food we eat, a whole lot of food we eat. Am I right? That's why I take the stairs. Bishop, Kirkland. That's why we take the stairs. Because I know we eating, just eating and eating. All right, volunteering may increase life expectancy. How about having some programs, as Brother Rice said, in your church to increase folks' life expectancies, that as they're engaged in the process of doing certain things, they begin to feel better. As they feel better, they do better. As they do better, then your ministry begins to grow. This is a mind, body, and spirit connection. I didn't make that. I look at research. That's what I do. And to talk about the issue of happier. How about Pharrell and being happy? That people who consume 2 or more servings of fruit and vegetables a day are happier than those. That's why some of y'all mad as hell. I know I said that. Just walking around mad and grumpy. Maybe when you have a church activity, because you know you got somebody y'all know that you're right. The lady in the church, and the guy had the angel his suit on, and he just jumped up and down, and all of a sudden he jumped up and flipped it off, and it was a devil, and then everybody started running out of the church. And the old lady was running to get out of the church, The devil caught up to her, and she said, "Wait! I've been on your side the whole time. I've been working on your side the whole time, devil." Some of y'all know you don't got the people inside. I'm just saying, y'all won't admit it. Some folks who need some more fruits. I tell you, I'll show that sign. All right. Bruce. Oh, that was slick, Bruce. You see what Bruce did? Some people, yes. Some people need some more fruit. How about that? I'm good, thank you. An Italian study, how about crucifying cancer? Because what happens is that as a result of not eating healthily, we feed certain things inside of the body. We feed death. Y'all going to get quiet on this. I'm just saying. Broccoli, right? Cauliflower, cabbage, kale can reduce the risk of various cancers. We need to have a ministry that speaks to the health of a population. Mind, body, and soul. That's taking care of the temple. Fiber. 2 or 3 grams more of fiber can help prevent arterial stiffness. Why is that important to certain people who are under duress and stress? As you deal with stress, adrenaline level raises higher. Adrenaline then causes cortisol to mount up in the body. Adrenaline has to be burned off through exercise, through activity. When you deal with various isms, you have a lot of adrenaline in your system. But as cortisol is not expended or expelled out of the system, it builds up in the arteries that causes plaque. Plaque in arteries causes the blood to have to try to push through, causes what? High blood pressure. But then there's a blockage that can take place called coronary heart disease. So if we tell our people about consuming more what? Fiber, we are causing them to live longer and happier, and therefore they will begin to honor us because they recognize that we are giving preaching to their bodies, preaching to their mind, and preaching to their spirit. That's essential. We have a ministry that talks all day long about the Daniel fast and the Daniel fast and the Daniel fast. Ooh, I can't fast. The reason, I'm done on this affirmation. The reason that there was the idea of ritual, we talked about the Old Testament and stuff, we miss stuff all the time because we get lost in someone else's reality. Ritual is essential to human functioning. Everybody in this room has a ritual, or 2, or 3, or 4. There are things you do, brush your teeth. There are things you do before you eat. That some people change clothes 2 or 3 times a day at the come. I'm just saying. I watch it. Ritual. The sacrificing was ritual. We say that we do not have to sacrifice anymore. The question is, why do you pray before you eat? Y'all ain't catching that one. If you ate that beef, somebody sacrificed that beef for you to eat. There was blood spared for you. I'm just saying. But when you become detached from ritual, you consume with no connection to spirituality. An example is that I am wearing a shoe. Yes or no? Yes. But I'm wearing it on my head. Incorrect positioning of the shoe. But I'm wearing one. Symbolism without substance is about as asinine as wearing a shoe in your head. Where is the substance in our various symbols? So the tradition taught us to respect the totality of life. You saw Avatar. I sacrificed you so that I could do this. We don't put that into perspective. We simply sacrifice and we get, and we get, and we get, and we get. And you know why? Really? Because, I got you. Because we have ritual that remind us of how to do this. Santa Claus, this time of year, can see you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. Now, 11 months out of the year, we've told children about God, who knows everything about you. Humble yourself to God so that you can have the goodness of the kingdom. I'm hollering at somebody. So what happens is that Santa Claus is the physical manifestation in a child's mind of what God is. All right? Yes. And what is the thing that we leave out for Santa Claus? Milk and cookies. Yes or no? Yeah. Right now, y'all don't know the story? It's straight. What is the last thing Santa Claus needs? The ritual symbolizes consumerism. Get. Boom. He can command 8 tiny reindeer. So that means that we're giving him something to torture 8 tiny reindeer, all the more. But he has this power to make the reindeer fly. And these reindeer can take him around the world in one night. Which means Santa Claus is omnipotent, Santa Claus is omniscient, and Santa Claus is omnipresent. Ritual gets our children into believing that somehow everything in this world is about them consuming, and that, watch this, what did you get for Christmas this year? Oh, I got this. You must have been good. That your worth is determined by how many things you have. Or you got this one big thing. Oh, you must have been really good. Your goodness is determined by your materialism. And we wonder what happens to our children when we grow up to be adults. And we have the same mentality, detached from the power of ritual. Just getting. Getting larger, getting unhealthy. Spirit is depleted. And don't have but T-I-M-E. That means be quiet. I'm just talking another 20 minutes. All right, so. And we miss out on what ritual has done to change our lives. We must begin to recognize the power of ritual and put substance in the ritual. Don't just do ritual for the sake of ritual, but put substance there. Yes. Now, as a result of that, people can make connections to restore their power to be a Christ, a God force on earth. Without that, one remains disconnected, and then they are forever lost. Is that making sense? Yes. Amen. All right. So, one thing to do is to understand that affirmations are very powerful in our lives. Everybody in this room affirms something on a day-to-day basis. You affirm that you are unintelligent, you affirm that you're beautiful, whatever it is. It means to make firm. One thing we practice is about giving affirmations to people to begin to say day in and day out, to transform, right, their minds to be renewed day to day, right, every day. Wake up in the morning, I may fear my advisor, so that I am totally awake while proceeding with faith and trust in my Creator. Therefore, my fears become cautious guides rather than limiters of my growth. Fear can be a wonderful messenger, servant, but a poor master. Daytime. I choose only thoughts, attitudes, and feelings that move me towards my highest good, greatest joy, and peace of mind. Because y'all know when you start working with some people sometimes, some stuff comes up at work with people, and you just get all thrown off. I choose thoughts, and you gotta pray through that moment, right? Bedtime, I forgive all persons, situations, and circumstances that created discomfort in my life today. I rise above them. And most of all, I forgive myself. Thank you so much. Forgive yourself and love yourself. As a matter of fact, look at your neighbor right now and say, neighbor, when I see you, I see myself. I won't do anything to you that I wouldn't do to myself. When I see you, I see God. I see the God in you. And the God in you loves the God in me. The God in me loves the God in you. I say amen.